Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today I thought I would do a video over my top 10 IMAscore soundtracks. And as you can see, this is my room, and I have Orion soundtrack playing in the background as part of my little Christmas soundtrack I have made, which has like a whole bunch of Christmas music and Orion soundtrack, of course. So today I'll be telling like my top 10 soundtracks. So I'm gonna start with number 10, which is Loke soundtrack, which this soundtrack is a part of the Valkyria soundtrack release that IMAscore did, and I just thought it was a really good soundtrack. It's not a roller coaster, but it's a ride like Delirium. It's a Huss ride, so I thought that was pretty cool. I just overall thought it was a really good soundtrack, so I put it as number 10 on my list, which here's a little snippet. On to number 9, and at number 9 I have the roller coaster Taren from Phantasialand, which is it's not the only coaster that's going to be from Phantasialand that's on this list. I just really thought this was too much of a hyped up soundtrack. I mean, it looks like an amazing coaster, but from what I've heard from the soundtrack, I just don't think it's that good. Like, I mean, it's okay, it's definitely not the worst, but I don't know, I just think it could have been better. Here's a little snippet. At number 8, I have a roller coaster that probably many of you don't even know about or have never heard of. I don't know. It's called Mystic from Wallaby Roans, and I just came across this soundtrack video one day and I just thought it was really good. I don't know, so I ranked it on my list. It just sounded more ambient to me, and I don't know. I mean, it did have a melody a little bit, but I just really liked it, and here's some of it. Of course, at number 7, I have Darren Brown's Ghost Train. This one really is similar to Mystic Timbers' soundtrack from what I've heard. Like, I just think it sounds very similar. I really like it. It's kind of scary, more ambient again, and it's just pretty cool. Moving on to number 6, as I said, Taren wasn't going to be the only coaster from Phantasialand on this list. I also put Ruckberg, or Fly, whichever one you call it, on this list because it reminds me of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory music, not gonna lie, and I just think it's really cool. And I know they released the soundtrack on CD a couple days ago, but you can only buy it at Phantasialand. You can't buy it online, and I obviously live in the US, so I haven't been to Phantasialand, so I can't get it sadly, but that one's pretty good. Moving on to number 5, I have the Smiler from Alton Towers. Obviously, that soundtrack's really like kind of messed up and scary, but like it's also good in a weird way. I don't know. I really like the melody and the beats to it, so that's why I put it on this list. Even though it's very repetitive, I still kind of like it. It's definitely unique. So here's a little snippet again. On to number 4, also at Alton Towers, is Wicker Man. I think this one really reminds me of Mystic Timbers again. And like, I don't know, I got the Alton Towers CD, so I've heard all of them, and I just thought Wicker Man stood out to me, and I really liked it. So of course, here's another snippet. I just think that one gives you really good ambience and it really complements the coaster. On to number 3, which is also at Alton Towers, is Galactica. I just love that soundtrack. Ever since someone released the full thing, I listened to it a lot during quarantine, and it really got me into more soundtracks, so I really like that one. And the main theme is amazing. I love the vocals and everything. It's just really good. On to number 2, I literally could not choose between Orion or Helix. Both Orion and Helix's soundtracks are literally so good. Like, okay, I think Helix's is a little bit better than Orion's soundtrack, but considering I watched Orion, like, Orion was basically the first coaster I watched, like, from the start to finish, like, building a roller coaster, and especially when it's at my home park, Kings Island, that really meant a lot. Like, it was important, but that one, Orion's soundtracks are so good, and I just think it's up there with Helix's soundtrack. Helix's soundtrack is beyond good, like, it is amazing. So here's, of course, more snippets of those, but I just couldn't choose between them. They're both just really good. On to number 1, which here's the best part of Orion's soundtrack, which is playing in my room, obviously. But number 1 is obviously Mystic Timbers' soundtrack. That's just a given to me. Like, Mystic Timbers' soundtrack is just the best for me. As some of you know, Mystic Timbers is a roller coaster that got me into loving roller coasters and just really getting into being a coaster enthusiast, and really introduced me to a lot of things. Like, I learned that it was a GCI, so it just really started me off there, studying coaster manufacturers to different types of coasters. It was amazing. But Mystic Timbers' soundtrack, I can't like stress enough how good it is. Like the Q soundtrack and the station one. This one is really cool because I don't know, you guys can comment, I don't know if any other roller coasters do that where the Q soundtrack is different than the station soundtrack, but like they're the same. They play at the same time but have different like instruments, different melodies. Some parts are completely different but complement each other. It sounds so cool when you're there in real life, hearing both going at the same time. I just love it. It's so unique. And Mystic Timbers' station soundtrack is just so good, and it just really complements the Q line, makes me more excited to ride it. It's just, there's so many good parts, and this snippet of, I'll show you, it'll be a little bit longer snippet because it's just really good and has so many good parts. And first I'll show you the Q soundtrack, and then I'll move on to the station soundtrack for Mystic Timbers. Here's the main, one of the main melodies for the Q soundtrack. And now here's that same exact part as the station soundtrack. As you can see, they're kind of similar, kind of not. But this is my favorite part by far. I'll show you my favorite part. It's like, I don't know if it's vocals or what it is, but like the instruments they use in the melody that they created for this piece is amazing. Like, this is by far my favorite. I'll show you the Q part and then the station part. Here's the Q part. And now here's the station part of that exact same part, which it's going to sound different, but it's the same. You'll see what I mean when you hear it. Like, isn't that crazy how they like sound similar but they're not? Like, they're so good. Like, when you're there and they're both playing, like, they really complement each other, and it sounds amazing in the entire queue and area and everything. And just here's some extra parts that I really like, that are like honorable mentions, I guess, of the soundtrack that are really good. I love all these soundtracks. They are so good, and just soundtracks in general. I just think overall they just make roller coasters just amazing, and they're such a good part of theming for roller coasters, and I just wish every roller coaster could get a soundtrack. The thing is with Orion's soundtrack, it's just the quietest played out of all these soundtracks. Like, I hear Galactica's soundtrack so loud in the queue, like when I see videos, just like Mystic Timbers, it plays really... Sorry for the change of location. I don't know what happened to that last video, but it just randomly disappeared. But as I was saying, Mystic Timbers is a great example. It plays the soundtrack pretty good in the queue. There's some parts where it's really quiet, but it plays pretty good, and the station's pretty quiet, but it plays good. Unlike Orion's is such a good soundtrack, but it's so underplayed. It's very quiet, and I don't know if it's the workers or whoever does the station, like for Orion when they set it up in the morning, but either it plays some days or it doesn't. I don't get it. It's so weird. But it's so quiet in the station, and why have Orion's soundtrack when it doesn't even play in the queue and only quiet in the area? I don't get why you pay all that money for that soundtrack and barely play it. Also, Kings Island, please let IMAscore release a CD with Mystic Timbers and Orion's soundtracks. We all are hoping for that. Like, us coaster enthusiasts, like, that would literally be amazing. Like, I've been hoping and praying forever for that to happen, so it's been 5 years. Please release both Mystic Timbers' soundtracks and Orion's. Like, release the station and the queue if anyone is watching from Kings Island, but please release it. Make a CD or whatever, anything. You guys need to release the soundtracks. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this different video. I feel like I'm vlogging again, but yeah, stay tuned for my Winterfest vlogs because Winterfest opens tomorrow, but because today's Thanksgiving. And I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving and you enjoyed this different video. And if you want to see Planet Coaster gameplays or different videos like that, then just let me know and I'll do those videos because I love hearing your guys' suggestions, and just leave comments. And yeah. What are your guys' favorite roller coaster soundtracks? I'd love to know, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video and that you had a great day. Please like and leave a comment, and remember, ride on the beaches.